The roast chicken sat cooling on the dining table, its golden skin losing its sheen under the soft glow of the chandelier. I checked my watch for the 14th time, 7:47 p.m. Sarah was nearly 2 hours late. I'd spent the entire afternoon preparing this dinner. Not just throwing something together, but actually cooking. The way I used to when we first got married, when impressing her still mattered, when our love felt like something worth fighting for. The table was set with our wedding china, the ones we only brought out for anniversaries and special occasions. Candles flickered between the plates, their flames dancing in the awkward silence. "Dad, I'm hungry," Tommy said from beside me, his 7-year-old voice small and uncertain. He'd been so excited when I told him about tonight's special dinner, about how we were going to be a family again. "I know, buddy. Mom will be here soon." The lie tasted bitter on my tongue. I'd been telling him variations of that lie for months now, about why Mom worked late, about why she missed his soccer games, about why she always seemed to be somewhere else. Tommy fidgeted with his napkin, folding and refolding it into increasingly smaller squares. He had Sarah's eyes, that same deep brown that used to make my heart skip. Now those eyes reflected in my son's innocent face just reminded me of everything that was slipping away. My phone buzzed, finally, but it wasn't Sarah. "Running late." "Don't wait up," 4 words. That's all our marriage had been reduced to, brief. Impersonal text messages that said everything and nothing at all. I looked at Tommy, at his hopeful face trying so hard to be patient, and something inside me cracked.
"How about we eat, just the 2 of us?"
"We can save Mom's plate for when she gets home." His face fell slightly, but he nodded. He was getting too good at disappointment, too practiced at accepting his mother's absence. What kind of childhood was I letting him have? We ate in near silence. The only sounds the clink of silverware against porcelain and the occasional comment from Tommy about his day at school. He told me about the drawing he'd made in art class, about how his friend Marcus had shared his cookies at lunch, about the butterfly they'd found during recess. Normal 7-year-old things, things his mother should have been hearing too. "This is really good, Dad," Tommy said, offering me a small smile that broke my heart into even smaller pieces. "Thanks, champ." I forced myself to smile back, to pretend that this was fine, that eating dinner alone with my son while my wife was God knows where was perfectly normal. By 9:30, Tommy's eyes were drooping. We'd moved to the couch, and he'd curled up against my side while we watched his favorite cartoon. The dinner table remained set, Sarah's plate untouched, the candles burned down to stubs. "Dad." Tommy's voice was sleepy, muffled against my shirt. "Yeah, buddy? Is Mom okay?" The question hung in the air like smoke. How was I supposed to answer that? Was Sarah okay? Or had I lost her to something or someone I couldn't compete with? "She's fine, Tommy, just busy with work." Oh, he was quiet for a moment. "Then she's with Jake again, isn't she?" The world stopped. The cartoon continued playing, its cheerful music suddenly deafening. My heart hammered against my ribs so hard I was sure Tommy could feel it. "What?" My voice came out strangled. "What do you mean, buddy?" Tommy yawned, innocent and oblivious to the bomb he'd just dropped. "Jake from Mom's work. She talks to him a lot on the phone. She smiles different when she talks to him." My 7-year-old son had just confirmed what I'd been too afraid to admit to myself for months. The late nights, the distance, the way Sarah's eyes slid away from mine whenever I tried to talk about us. It all suddenly made horrible. Perfect sense. I sat there, my son falling asleep in my arms, my wife's cold dinner mocking me from the table, and felt my marriage crumble into dust. The worst part? Tommy had noticed. My little boy had been watching his mother fall in love with someone else, and I'd been too blind, or too cowardly to see it. I barely slept that night. After carrying Tommy to bed and tucking him in, I'd returned to the living room and sat in the dark, my mind replaying every moment of the past 6 months like a horror movie I couldn't turn off. She smiles different when she talks to him. Tommy's words echoed in my head, innocent and devastating. How long had my son been carrying this knowledge? How many times had he watched his mother light up for another man, while barely acknowledging his father's existence? Sarah came home at 11:43 p.m. I know because I watched every minute tick by on the wall clock, each one feeling like an hour. I heard her car in the driveway, the quiet click of her heels on the porch, the careful way she opened the door, trying not to wake anyone, trying to slip in unnoticed like she'd been doing for months. She froze when she saw me sitting there in the dim light of the single lamp I'd left on. David, I thought you'd be asleep. Did you? My voice sounded foreign to my own ears, flat, cold. Or did you just hope I would be? She shifted her purse from one shoulder to the other, a nervous gesture I'd seen 1,000 times. I texted you. I said I was running late. Running late. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. It's almost midnight, Sarah. Dinner was at 6. I made your favorite. Tommy waited for you. Something flickered across her face. Guilt, maybe, or annoyance at being caught. I'm sorry. Work was crazy and who's Jake? The color drained from her face. In that moment, watching her struggle to find words, I knew. God help me, I'd known for a while, but I'd been too afraid to confront it. But now, after watching my son eat cold chicken while his mother was out doing God knows what, I couldn't hide anymore. He's a colleague. You know that. I've mentioned him before. Right. A colleague. I stood up, my hands clenched at my sides to keep them from shaking. Is that why our son knows you smile differently when you talk to him? Because he's just a colleague? Sarah's face crumpled. Tommy said that? Tommy noticed that? Because apparently our 7-year-old is more aware of what's happening in this marriage than I've been willing to admit. I took a step toward her. Tell me the truth, Sarah. Please, I deserve at least that much. For a long moment she just stood there, her eyes filling with tears. Then she set down her purse, walked to the couch, and sat down heavily, her hands covering her face. It's not what you think, she whispered. Then tell me what it is. Make me understand why you missed dinner with your family. Make me understand why you're never here anymore. Make me understand why my son has learned to expect disappointment from his own mother. She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. I didn't mean for this to happen, David. I swear I didn't. What to happen, Sarah? But I already knew. I just needed to hear her say it. Jake and we got close. He understood things about my work, about my ambitions. He listened when I talked about my dreams. He made me feel... She trailed off, but the damage was done. He made you feel what? Alive, important? Things I apparently stopped making you feel? It's not your fault. Don't. I held up a hand. Don't you dare try to make this easier on yourself by absolving me. If you were unhappy, if I wasn't enough, you should have told me. You should have given me a chance to fix it before you went looking for whatever Jake gives you. It's not like that. We haven't... I mean, it's not physical. Oh well, that makes it so much better. The sarcasm felt like acid in my throat. You're just emotionally cheating on me. You're just giving your heart to someone else while I sit at home with our son, wondering why his mother doesn't want to be here anymore. I do want to be here. I love Tommy, but not me. It wasn't a question. She opened her mouth, then closed it. The silence that followed told me everything. How long? I asked quietly. How long have you been in love with him? David, how long, Sarah? 4 months. Her voice was barely audible. Maybe 5. I don't know exactly when it changed from friendship to more. 5 months. 5 months of lies, of excuses, of watching her pull away and pretending everything was fine. 5 months of our son noticing what I refused to see. Are you going to leave? I asked, surprised by how steady my voice sounded when everything inside me was screaming. I don't know. At least she was being honest now. I don't know what I want. Well, I know what I want. I looked toward the hallway where our son slept, innocent and unaware that his world was about to shatter. I want Tommy to grow up knowing his father fought for him. I want him to know that when it mattered, I chose him. What does that mean? It means tomorrow I'm calling a lawyer. It means I'm done pretending this marriage is salvageable. It means I'm going to make sure our son has at least one parent who shows up for him. Sarah's face went white. You can't take Tommy from me. I'm not taking him from you. You did that yourself every time you chose Jake over your family. I walked toward the hallway, then paused. You can stay tonight, but tomorrow we figure out how to divide what's left of this family. And Sarah, from now on, when our son asks where his mother is, you'll be the one explaining it to him. I'm done making excuses for you. Dawn crept through the curtains like an unwelcome guest, painting the bedroom in shades of gray that matched my mood. I hadn't slept, just lay in the guest room staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle around me, trying to figure out how everything had gone so wrong. Sarah had locked herself in our bedroom. Our bedroom. The thought felt strange now, like calling something ours when it had clearly belonged to someone else for months. At 6:30, I heard Tommy's door open, his small feet padding down the hallway. I found him in the kitchen, dragging a chair to the counter to reach the cereal. "Hey, buddy, let me help you with that." I lifted him down and pulled out his favorite bowl, the one with the dinosaurs on it. "Is Mom home?" he asked, his voice still thick with sleep. "Yeah, she's here. She got in late last night." Tommy nodded solemnly, pouring cereal with the intense concentration only a 7-year-old can muster. "Are you and Mom fighting?" Kids notice everything. I'd learned that last night, and the lesson cut deep. I sat down across from him, trying to find words that would be honest without being cruel. "We're having some grown-up problems, yeah. But you know what? None of it is your fault, and both of us love you very much. Is it because of Jake? God, how I wished I could protect him from this. It's complicated, Tommy. Marcus's parents got divorced last year," he said matter-of-factly, crunching his cereal. "He has 2 bedrooms now. One at his mom's house and one at his dad's." My throat tightened. "Is that something you're worried about?" He shrugged, but I could see the fear in his eyes, Sarah's eyes. "Will I still see both of you?" "Always, buddy. No matter what happens between your mom and me, you'll always have both of us. I promise you that." I heard movement from upstairs. Sarah appeared in the doorway minutes later, still in yesterday's clothes, her makeup smudged, her hair disheveled. She looked like I felt, broken, exhausted, lost. "Tommy, sweetheart," she said, her voice cracking. "Can I talk to you?" Tommy looked at me uncertainly. I nodded, and he climbed down from his chair, walking slowly toward his mother. She knelt down and pulled him into a hug so tight I heard him grunt. "I'm sorry I missed dinner last night." She whispered into his hair, "I'm so sorry." "It's okay, Mom. Dad made chicken. It was really good." She pulled back, holding his face in her hands. "I'm going to do better, okay? I promise I'm going to do better." But even as she said it, I wondered if she meant it, or if she even could. After Tommy finished breakfast, I walked him to the bus stop like I did every morning. It was one of our routines, one of the many small things I'd been doing alone for months without really acknowledging it. "Dad?" he asked as we stood waiting for the yellow bus to round the corner. "Yeah? Even if you and Mom don't live together anymore, you'll still make chicken dinners, right?" The simplicity of it nearly destroyed me. In the chaos of adult problems and broken promises, my son just wanted to know if we'd still have chicken dinners. "Absolutely, champ. Every week if you want." He smiled, relieved, and when the bus came, he gave me a quick hug before climbing aboard. I watched until it disappeared around the corner, then walked slowly back to the house, steeling myself for what came next. Sarah was waiting in the living room, a cup of coffee trembling in her hands. "We need to talk," I said, sitting across from her, maintaining distance, maintaining control. "David, I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But please, can we try to work through this? For Tommy's sake?" "For Tommy's sake?" The words came out sharper than I intended. "You don't get to use our son as an excuse now, Sarah. Where was for Tommy's sake when you were spending your evenings with Jake? Where was it when you missed his soccer game 3 weeks ago because you were working late? Where was it last night when he sat at that table waiting for his mother? That's not fair. None of this is fair." I stood up, unable to sit still anymore. "What's not fair is that our son has been watching you check out of this family, while I pretended everything was fine. What's not fair is that I've been killing myself trying to figure out what I did wrong, how I failed you, when you'd already given your heart to someone else. I never meant to hurt you or Tommy. But you did. Intentions don't matter anymore, Sarah. Actions do. And your actions have been screaming loud and clear that you don't want this family anymore." She set down her coffee with shaking hands. "So what now? You're just going to throw away 8 years of marriage?" "I'm not throwing it away. You already did that. I'm just acknowledging it." I pulled out my phone. "I have an appointment with a divorce attorney at 10 o'clock. I'm filing for primary custody of Tommy. You can't do that. I can and I will. I'll fight for him, Sarah. I'll fight for him the way I should have been fighting for us months ago, because he deserves at least one parent who puts him first. I do put him first. Then prove it. Show up, be present. Stop choosing Jake over your son." I grabbed my keys. "I'm taking the day off work." "You should too. We need to figure out the logistics, who moves out, how we split time with Tommy, all of it. David, please." "I made breakfast reservations for our anniversary next month," I said quietly, cutting her off. "At that Italian place where we had our first date. I was going to surprise you. I thought maybe if we could just reconnect, if we could remember why we fell in love." I laughed bitterly. But you can't fall back in love with someone when you're in love with someone else. Tears streamed down her face. I'm so sorry. So am I. I headed for the door, then stopped. For what it's worth, I hope Jake makes you happy. I really do. Because someone should get something good out of this disaster. But it won't be at Tommy's expense. Not anymore. 3 months later, I sat in my new apartment, well, our new apartment, Tommy's and mine, assembling a bookshelf while my son organized his action figures on the floor beside me. The space was smaller than our house, the furniture was mostly from IKEA, and the walls were still bare, but it felt more like home than our old place had felt in years. Dad, can we paint my room? Tommy asked, holding up 2 toy dinosaurs and making them fight. Maybe blue? Like really bright blue? I think we can manage that. How about we go to the hardware store tomorrow and pick out the exact shade you want? His face lit up. These small moments of joy had become more frequent over the past few months. The divorce proceedings were ugly, they always are. But I'd stuck to my priorities. Tommy's stability, Tommy's happiness, Tommy's future. The custody arrangement had been brutal to negotiate. Sarah had fought me every step, claiming I was being vindictive, that I was trying to punish her by taking away her son. But the evidence spoke for itself. Months of missed events. The testimony about her relationship with Jake, who she'd finally admitted she was seeing officially now. And most damning of all, Tommy's own carefully worded statements to the family court counselor about feeling less important than Mom's friend. I'd gotten primary custody, 70-30 split. Sarah had Tommy every other weekend and 1 evening a week. It wasn't what I'd wanted. I'd wanted our family intact. But it was what Tommy needed. Stability, consistency, a parent who showed up. My phone buzzed with a text from my lawyer. Final decree signed by judge. It's official. Congratulations or condolences. Both seem appropriate, so it was done. 8 years of marriage reduced to legal documents and split custody schedules. I should have felt something, relief, sadness, anger. Instead, I just felt tired. Hey, champ, why don't you go wash up for dinner? As Tommy ran off to the bathroom, I looked around our new space. This wasn't how I'd imagined my life going. At 34, I'd thought I'd be coaching Little League, going on family vacations, maybe planning for a second kid. Instead, I was a divorced dad trying to figure out how to build a life from the wreckage. But then Tommy came back, his face still damp from washing, and climbed onto the couch beside me. Can we have movie night tonight? With popcorn? Absolutely. Your choice of movie. Even if I pick the dinosaur one again? Even if you pick the dinosaur one for the 100th time? He snuggled against my side, and I felt something shift in my chest. Maybe this wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was the life I had. And sitting here with my son, knowing he felt safe and loved and prioritized, maybe that was enough. The past 3 months hadn't been easy. I'd had to reduce my hours at work to manage the single-parent schedule. Money was tighter living in 2 households instead of 1. And the looks from other parents at school drop off, the mixture of pity and curiosity, never got less uncomfortable. But I'd also discovered things about myself I'd forgotten. I was a good cook. I could French braid hair. YouTube tutorials were a godsend. I could handle 3rd-grade math homework without having a breakdown. I could be both mom and dad when I needed to be. Tommy had his struggles too. The first few weeks he'd asked about Sarah constantly. Why couldn't we all live together? Why did grown-ups have to make things so complicated? Why couldn't Mom just stop seeing Jake? Those conversations nearly broke me. How do you explain adult failures to a child without destroying his faith in love and family? In the basic goodness of people. I'd done my best, always emphasizing that none of it was his fault, that both his parents loved him, that sometimes people grew apart, but that didn't mean he'd lose either of us. Sarah's visitation weekends were complicated. Tommy would come back quiet, withdrawn, different. It took me a while to figure out why. Jake was often there. Sarah was trying to build a new life that included both her boyfriend and her son, and Tommy was caught in the middle. I'd wanted to rage, to march over there and tell her she was putting her relationship ahead of her kid again, but my lawyer had advised against it, and more importantly, I'd realized that I couldn't control Sarah's choices anymore. I could only control how I showed up for Tommy, so I focused on us, on our Wednesday pizza nights and Saturday morning pancakes, on reading together before bed and taking him to his swimming lessons. on being present, consistent, reliable, everything he needed. Dad? Tommy's voice pulled me from my thoughts. Yeah, buddy? I like it here. Just us. The words should have made me happy, but they carried a weight I wasn't sure either of us was ready to acknowledge. My son was choosing sides, and while I was grateful to be the parent he chose, I mourned that he had to choose it all. I'm glad, Tommy. But you know it's okay to like being with Mom too, right? You don't have to pick. He was quiet for a moment. I know, but it's different with her now. She tries really hard, but I can tell she's thinking about other stuff. About Jake. God, he was too perceptive, too aware for 7 years old. Your mom loves you very much, I said. Because even after everything, I wouldn't poison him against her. She's just figuring some things out right now. Do you still love her? The question caught me off guard, did I? The woman who'd shattered our family, who'd chosen her own desires over her son's stability, who'd lied for months while I'd sat at home wondering what I'd done wrong. I love who she used to be, I said finally, and I'll always be grateful she gave me you. But no, I don't love who she's become. Tommy processed this with the seriousness of a judge. That's okay, Dad. I love you enough for both of us. And there it was. My 7-year-old son trying to fill the holes his mother had left, trying to be enough to heal his father's wounds. It wasn't fair. It wasn't right. But it was what we had. The spring morning arrived soft and warm, the kind of day that whispers promises of new beginnings. 6 months had passed since the divorce was finalized, and I'd learned to navigate our new normal, the rhythm of solo parenting, the ache of an empty apartment every other weekend, the strange freedom of rebuilding a life on my own terms. Dad, look! Tommy burst through the front door, his backpack bouncing against his shoulders, his face flushed with excitement. I got a gold star on my science project. Mrs. Henderson said it was the best one in the whole class. That's amazing, buddy. The volcano one we worked on together? Yeah, it erupted perfectly. And I remembered everything you taught me about the baking soda and vinegar reaction. He handed me the project board, and there it was, a giant gold star sticker next to his name. I pulled him into a hug, feeling that familiar swell of pride and love and bittersweet awareness that I was now the keeper of all these moments. The good grades, the playground triumphs, the skinned knees, the bad dreams. Sarah would hear about them secondhand, filtered through brief summaries during pickup exchanges. Part of me had wanted her to hurt the way I'd hurt, but watching Tommy glow with achievement and knowing his mother would miss the unfiltered joy of this moment, that was punishment enough. This was what she'd traded for whatever Jake gave her. You know what this calls for? I said, setting down the project. Celebration ice cream. Before dinner? Absolutely before dinner. Gold Star achievements supersede nutritional guidelines. Tommy laughed. That pure, uninhibited 7-year-old laugh that made everything worthwhile, and we headed out to the ice cream shop, 3 blocks away. Our neighborhood was growing familiar now, full of small routines and favorite spots. The barista at the coffee shop who knew my order, the librarian who saved new dinosaur books for Tommy, the older couple next door who'd become surrogate grandparents. We were building something here, something smaller than what I'd planned but somehow more solid. At the ice cream shop, Tommy ordered his usual chocolate chip cookie dough and chattered about his day while I half listened and half marveled at his resilience. Kids adapt. They bend without breaking. He'd shouldered this divorce better than I had, finding ways to thrive in the wreckage. Mom's picking me up tomorrow, right? He asked between bites. Yep. Her weekend. He nodded, some of the light dimming from his eyes. Will Jake be there? This had become the recurring question, the complication that colored every exchange with Sarah. Jake had moved from occasional presence to permanent fixture, and while Sarah insisted Tommy was adjusting, I saw the truth in my son's carefully neutral expression whenever he came back from her place. I'm not sure, buddy, but remember, you can always call me if you need anything, anytime, okay? I know. He swirled his spoon through melting ice cream. Dad, can I ask you something? Always. Are you lonely? When I'm at Mom's, the question hit harder than it should have. Was I lonely? The apartment felt cavernous without Tommy's energy filling it, yes. But lonely? Sometimes, I admitted. But you know what? I'm also learning to enjoy the quiet. I read books I've been meaning to get to. I try new recipes, I go for long runs. And I spend the whole time looking forward to when you come home. This seemed to satisfy him. We finished our ice cream and walked home as the sun began its descent, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. That night after Tommy was asleep, I sat at my laptop responding to work emails when a notification popped up, a Facebook memory from 8 years ago. Sarah and me on our wedding day, young and stupid and so convinced we had it all figured out. I looked at that version of myself, 30 pounds lighter and infinitely more naive, and wondered what I'd tell him if I could. She's not who you think she is. Or maybe you're not who she needs. Either way, protect your heart. More importantly, protect your son. But would I have listened? Would I have believed that the woman gazing at me with such love in that photo would one day choose a coworker over her family? That I'd end up living in a 2-bedroom apartment, dividing my son's childhood into neat custody schedules? Probably not. Some lessons you have to learn the hard way. My phone rang, Sarah's number. I considered letting it go to voicemail, but answered on the 3rd ring. David? I hope I'm not calling too late. Tommy's asleep, but I'm up. What's going on? A pause. Jake proposed. The words hung there, and I waited for the gut punch, the surge of jealousy or anger or something. Instead, I felt nothing. Maybe a faint sadness for what could have been, but mostly just a detached interest in how this would affect Tommy. Congratulations, I said, and meant it. When? Last weekend. We're thinking a fall wedding. Small, just close friends and family. Another pause. Tommy would be there, of course. Maybe as a ring bearer, if you're okay with that. Was I okay with my son participating in his mother's wedding to the man she'd left us for? The old me, the one sitting at that dinner table 6 months ago waiting for a wife who'd never come, would have said absolutely not. Would have fought it, made it ugly, used Tommy as a weapon. But that version of me had learned some hard lessons about what fighting really meant, and what was worth protecting. That's between you and Tommy, I said carefully. If he wants to do it, I won't stand in the way. But Sarah, you need to be clear with him about what this means. No sugarcoating. No pretending this is anything other than what it is. You choosing to marry someone who isn't his father. You make it sound so cold. I'm not trying to be cold. I'm trying to be realistic. Tommy's adjusted better than either of us had any right to expect. But that doesn't mean this won't be hard for him. Just handle it carefully, okay? I will, David. Her voice cracked slightly. I really am sorry for how everything happened. You deserved better. Yeah, I did. But more importantly, Tommy deserved better. We both failed him, Sarah. You by leaving, me by not seeing it sooner and ending things cleanly instead of letting him watch us fall apart. He seems happy now. When I see him, he talks about you all the time. The things you do together, the jokes you have, the routines you've built. There was something in her voice, not quite jealousy, but close. The recognition that she'd given up something irreplaceable. That's what I'm here for now, I said simply, to make sure he knows he's the priority, always. After we hung up, I checked on Tommy one more time. He was sprawled across his bed, one arm hanging off the side, his favorite stuffed triceratops clutched in the other hand. The nightlight cast gentle shadows across his peaceful face. This was what I'd been fighting for, not to win against Sarah, not to punish her for her choices, but to give this kid the stability to sleep peacefully, to know that at least one parent would always be there, would always choose him first. The months ahead would bring new challenges. Sarah's wedding, Tommy's adjustment to her new marriage, the inevitable complications of blended families and competing loyalties. But for tonight, in this quiet apartment that had become our home, we were okay. More than okay, actually. For the first time since that horrible dinner table moment, I felt something like peace. Not happiness exactly. The wound was still too fresh for that. But acceptance. Understanding that some things break beyond repair, and that sometimes the breaking makes space for something new to grow. I opened my laptop and started a new document. Something I'd been thinking about for weeks. Co-parenting agreements and expectations. It was time to formalize some ground rules with Sarah, to establish clear boundaries about Jake's role in Tommy's life, to ensure that whatever new family she built, my son's needs came first. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't the fairy tale I'd imagined on that wedding day 8 years ago, but it was real, and it was honest, and it was built on a foundation that wouldn't crumble the moment someone else smiled differently. The next morning, Tommy woke up early, crawling into bed beside me like he'd been doing more frequently lately. Dad? I was barely awake. Even when I'm at Mom's new house after she marries Jake, this will still be my real home, right? I pulled him closer, feeling his small body relax against mine. This will always be your home, buddy. Always. No matter how many houses you have, no matter what changes happen, you'll always have a place here with me. Good. He yawned, settling in. Because I like our life. Just you and me. It's simple. Simple. Such a perfect word. Our life now was simple in a way it hadn't been when I was constantly trying to decode Sarah's moods, to figure out where I'd gone wrong, to hold together something that was already fractured beyond recognition. Now I knew where I stood. I knew my purpose. I knew that every dinner I cooked, every homework assignment I helped with, every bedtime story I read was building something that couldn't be shaken by someone else's choices. Me too, Tommy. Me too. As the morning light filtered through the curtains, I felt it, the first real smile since that terrible night, authentic and unforced. Not because I'd stopped hurting or because I'd forgiven Sarah or because I'd moved on, but because I'd found something better than the life I'd lost. I'd found purpose in the wreckage, strength in the struggle, and a relationship with my son that was built on presence and priority and unwavering commitment. The table had been ready that night, but she never came. And in her absence, I'd learned that sometimes the people who don't show up teach you the most important lesson of all. Show up for yourself. Show up for those who need you and build a life with the ones who never lied to you. Tommy stirred beside me. Can we have pancakes? Pancakes it is. And in that simple moment, my son beside me, a Saturday morning stretching ahead, pancakes on the menu, I realized I'd finally found my way home.